Let me tell you what I think is the grandest illusion swirling around this whole issue of customer service. It is this: that good service will be rewarded. Now, that is a very common misconception, and it owes its widespread acceptance precisely to the fact that it seems so reasonable. It sounds so plausible. It makes so much sense to believe that if you provide good service, that your customers will reward you with their gratitude and their loyalty, but it's rarely true. And I'm going to prove that it's rarely true by using you as Exhibit A. I would like you to raise your hand if you have eaten at a new restaurant, new to you I mean, in the last month or two at which you would say the service was good. Raise your hand. Leave your hand up if you now regard yourself as a loyal customer of that restaurant. What just happened? Almost every hand went down. Why? Because good service is rarely rewarded. Good service is the norm. It is expected. It is immediately forgotten. Good service is not even a competitive advantage anymore. It is the price of entry into the marketplace. Here's the cold, hard truth. There are only two types of service that your customers will respond to: fabulous and bad. Everything in between is forgotten and ignored. Several years ago, I was invited to be the luncheon speaker on a Saturday on Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. In those days, Hilton Head was a 50-minute drive down windy back roads through the bayou of South Carolina from the nearest major airport in Savannah, Georgia. My schedule required that I fly into Savannah late on Friday night, and I didn't want to make that drive down windy back roads in the dark, so I decided I would find a motel near the Savannah airport and then drive to Hilton Head after dawn the next morning. And so I went online and I found a motel near the Savannah airport, a cheap one, because my client was on a very tight budget. In fact, I went to the extreme of prepaying at the non-refundable rate to get the lowest possible charge for my client. I flew into Savannah right on schedule at 10 p.m., rented my car, drove to the motel, and it was closed. I don't mean it was closed down. I mean there was a sign on the door that said the office closes at 10, we'll be back at 5 a.m. So I paid for a room and can't get in. I was not happy. I went to a gas station, asked for advice, and they suggested I try the Fairfield Marriott, also near the Savannah airport. I drove there. They were, of course, open 24/7. The check-in process was smooth. The lady behind the desk was quite pleasant. The room was clean and tidy. The continental breakfast the next morning was fresh and tasty. My whole experience at the Fairfield Marriott was a good one. That night, after my performance, I flew away. And as I departed Savannah, I made a resolution in my heart that if ever I returned to Savannah, I would stay where? Wrong. Don't ever forget what I'm about to say. I resolved that I would stay anywhere but the first place. I've been back to Savannah at least a dozen times since then. I've never once even considered staying at the Fairfield Marriott. You say, why? They were good. Well, because it's also good at the Courtyard, and the Hampton Inn, and the Drury, and the Westin, and the Hyatt, and the Hilton, even the Holiday Inn, and the Best Western. Fairfield Marriott made me a satisfied customer, but there is a whale of a difference between a satisfied customer and a loyal one. As a satisfied customer, if a client says, we want you to speak in Savannah, do you mind if we put you up at the Fairfield? I'll say, no problem, they're good, happy to. But I'm not going to say, please, 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 since I'm coming to Savannah anyway, do you mind if I stay at the Fairfield Marriott? There's a huge difference. You've probably got tons of satisfied customers, but they're not loyal customers. What would the Fairfield Marriott have to do to transform me from a merely satisfied customer, which I am, into a loyal customer, which I am not? Well, there are many factors in customer loyalty, but one of the things they could do was to provide for me what I call a moment of magic. A moment of magic is what you experience when a vendor does something for you so wonderful, so unexpected, so over the top that you are left stunned, speechless, experiencing a moment of magic. That happens for people who have an extra mile mentality, people who go an extra length. I had a moment of magic at a place very similar to what you run several years ago. I took my car to a new place to get the oil changed and the tires rotated. Very routine stuff. I went to a new place because I had a coupon. I left my car there. A couple of hours later, my wife dropped me off to pick it back up. I paid for it, and as I left the parking lot, I noticed that something was different. My carpets were clean. I looked through the windshield, and there were little droplets of water beaded up all over the hood. They had washed and vacuumed my car. Now, they didn't ask me if they could. They didn't tell me that they had. They certainly didn't charge me for it. They did the right thing. They let me drive away and experience a moment of pure magic. Now, of all of the places that I've ever had my oil changed, which one stands out in my mind? Yeah. Hey, folks, it's hard to mess up an oil change. You either leave with new oil or you don't. And I'll bet that you can't do an oil change much better than your competitors. You have to take it to the next level. You have to go the extra mile. You have to provide a moment of magic for your customers.